on how we could together reduce environmental impact and at the same time contribute to business development. Value chains are very popular in the corporate environment, and it is clear that if we speak about the food, farmers should be involved. So let us now listen to a presentation on the common value chain and its contribution to farmers.
Welcome to the stage. Here's the clicker.
Okay, thank you.
I have to warn you, right after you, there will be a cake and a little glass of wine.
Oh, great. So now you have some goal to actually listen to me and wait a little bit. I know that your attention is like a little bit right now, maybe lower because of the hour and because of the lunch that you probably had. But I hope that you will still keep some time for me as well. I'm Kornelia Kajda, I'm from Poland, and I just wanted to start with some kind of story of my family and of me, just to get to know each other a little bit better and maybe activate you a little bit. So I'm coming from the farming family, of course. I've got a grandfather and father sitting around the table, always talking about farming and complaining about different things, arguing about how to manage farm and stuff. And I decided, listening to all those stories, that I'm not going to have anything that is connected to farming at all. Like agriculture, not for me at all. So I went for the studies. I studied archaeology, did my PhD there. I worked at the university for a couple of years. And here I am, talking about farming to farmers and working with farmers for already 5 years in Poland, listening to your problems and actually being more in the practice of farming that I have ever thought that I will be. So this is something that for me is a thing also that a change in my life happened, and farming is a kind of addictive thing. And we are talking here today a lot about climate change, about the new practices, about soil. And the first thing that we have to remember from that conference, I think, is that we have to take care of our soils. Because without it, in 10 years, in 20 years, we won't meet here anymore. Because there will be no farming, or 50% of what we are doing here right now. So that's why we have to have that in mind after the conference, that soil is the most important part of our European agriculture right now. And we cannot actually work with that soil as we did or have been doing for years right now. And this is not something that actually we as farmers see, but also this is something that is visible in terms of regulations coming from the European Union, and also the companies, the food producers, that they see that in a couple of years they will not have the products to proceed and to operate with to have the food security. So this is the thing that is happening right now in the European Union to secure the food security for the future, but also to think about the climate change that is connected to that. And what they do is they actually, in the European Union, we have the situation right now in which there are some regulations that actually are to take care of the soil structure and take care of the climate change that influences everything when it comes to agriculture. And there are corporations right now are actually they have to count their CO2 emissions. They are supposed to know what are actually the CO2 emissions of each sector that they actually work with, and they have some limits to which they have which are the upper limits for them. So the emissions that they can actually produce. And when the big corporates, the food sector, started to calculate where the emissions come from in terms of, because they were actually supposed to do it, when they started to calculate that, it actually turned out that the biggest amount of emissions, CO2 emissions, come from the scope 3. And I am going to explain you a little bit what is the difference between scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. because you, as farmers, are in the scope 3 for the food sector. So the biggest amount of emissions that come from food production comes from actually farming and comes from transport of food. So these two places are actually very interesting right now for the big companies to reduce their emissions. Scope 1 emissions, so these are the direct ones actually produced by food production in the factories. So factories emitting, this is scope 1. Then there is a scope 2 that is indirect energy-related emissions, so electricity and other things. And scope 3, or other indirect emissions, everything that is connected to food production, from seeding a seed putting a seed to the soil, to the end consumer eating actually the bread that is made of that seed. So everything. They have to account for emissions coming from all the process that happens while producing food. So this is the biggest share of emissions, actually, the scope 3, which is related to agriculture. That's why probably some big companies, food producers such as Nestle, such as Cargill, and any others, they come to you right now and ask you about actually about calculating your emissions, about working closely with them and changing something at your farm, some practices, because they want actually you to be part of their value chain, to make that change together with them. And they have to do it. And for example, Nestle, this is a company, like, as probably everybody knows that company. 95% emissions of that company come from the land use and farming. So you see that for them, you are the key right now, the key element of reducing their carbon footprint. They have to work with you. They have to turn to you. And this is the future, actually. They will do it more and more. I'm working in Poland, Polish agriculture, like we are agricultural country, so I feel and I see like many companies coming to farmers actually and asking them to join their projects. So from where the emissions of the farming come from? You most probably know it, but like the fertilizer use, this is a huge amount of emissions. So that's why we think about like reducing this kind of emissions by fertilizer reduction. We all know that there is like overusage of fertilizers and soils are full of it, and that's why the quality of soil is degrading actually. The livestock management and land use changes. So the first thing that the big companies have to do, they have to identify from where actually the emissions come from. And if they know it, then they actually ask you to work with them in terms of changing something. Just like a little bit about the theory, since we have like something that is connected to reduction and removals, the big companies, they want to work with us in terms of reducing your carbon footprint and removing it. So when we remove it, we take this carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and put it to the soil, which is sequestration, of course, and reductions are connected more to fertilizer usage and other things that you can do on your farm, or like fuel usage as well. So reducing fuel usage, this is also something that you can do. So we have removals when you remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and you have reductions when you reduce the carbon footprint of your normal farming, let's say by reducing fertilization or any other like things connected to fuel. And first of all, that's what we have to understand, and what I would like you to remember from my presentation is that you are in the center. You farmers right now in the center of interest of big companies. Corporates, they have to turn to you because otherwise they're not going to reduce their emissions. And if you are in the center, this is this kind of, let's do it together mode. But you have to remember that let's do it together is also something that the companies have to do something also for you. It's not that you are just doing everything for the big corporates. They are accounting their emission reductions. And for them, it's a win-win situation. But for you, it's something that you feel like, OK, I did that job, and now what? So just wanted for you to know that when it comes to farmers, you being in those projects with big companies, you can ask for something as well. Like we're talking mostly about the soil, and this is something that I'd like you to be aware that this is the most important part of the project, but still, they can incentivize you somehow as farmers. So what kind of incentives, encouragement, and other things are right now in the offer of big companies for farmers to engage them more in those reductions and removal processes, in those achieving those limits of CO2 emissions? First of all, I just checked a little bit about the websites of different projects connected to the Scope 3 value chain, the big companies, so Nestle and any other companies. And I wanted to know how they work with farmers and what they actually propose them for making those changes. And I've been like scrolling through the pages. Believe me, it's hard to find anything about it. Like this is like they're not very open to talk like how they actually incentivize farmers. This is something that they rather try not to be very open about, because this is like in terms of project it differs. There are some projects connected to in different countries. So for example, Nestle treats farmers in Asia differently than they treat farmers, for example, in Europe. So that's why this is something that it's not very transparent when it comes to those projects. But I just checked that, and also I have some conversations with the big companies, so that's why I wanted to summarize it for you. And the situations looks like that mostly what they propose is just like paying for the seed, for fuel, or they give you like higher prices for the product. That's something that you can ask them. And check in the project that they offer you if there is this kind of incentive for you in terms of joining the program with a big company. Then we have also digital solutions. Data collection part, one of the most important parts of each project. You have to be aware that in each project that is offered for you, the data collection part will be very crucial, because we have to know, and the big companies, they have to know what they are accounting for. They have to calculate everything. And how can they do it? They can do it only by using a software. So this is also something that they can give you. So like digital solution for farmers, they will give you some farm management system for you to enter the data, but also like to manage your farm. And mostly this is for free. So this is like another thing that they're giving farmers for those kind of practices that they ask for. And the next thing are direct payments for practice change. Mostly when we talk about the practice change, we do talk about cover cropping. We do talk about the reduced tillage, no tilling. That's the best example that you can do and the best practice that you can do in all projects. And fertilizer reduction as well as fuel reductions. These are, let's say, like four or five practices that you can implement, and they are kind of repeating in all of those projects. Why? Because we can model it, because we can calculate it, because they are kind of easily implemented on the farms, and you understand how to do it. So this is something actually that also in different projects is done. So those direct payments for a practice, for example, for cover cropping, for reduced tillage, they just calculate it and tell you like how much you can gain. And of course, like the fourth thing that's very popular as well is this agricultural advisor and soil sampling as well, like regarding your farm. So in that project, very often the soil sampling is made for you like for free. They give you like all the analysis and data connected to that. And you have those agricultural advisors looking at your farm and advising you on different topics, how to reduce carbon footprint, but not only this, also thinking about the future of your farm. So we have those four, let's say, general incentives that are proposed by the big companies in the value chain projects. And I'm pretty sure that in the next years, you will see those companies coming to you and proposing something. So just keep in mind what you can actually ask for and what are the options for you there. And since most probably you know about the carbon program, you know eAgronom, we are offering that, but also we work in the value chain. And I just wanted for you to know as farmers, what is the difference between those two programs? And first of all, what I would like you to know, you cannot join both programs. You have to choose. Do you participate in the carbon program, or do you participate in the value chain program of a given company? You have to decide. And just like a very short, let's say, description and differences between those two programs, which mostly take into account the same practices, but they are kind of different. So first of all, when it comes to carbon program, this is like 5 years. This is a long program because everybody knows that if you want to see any changes in your soil, it has to be long. Like soil doesn't change in 1 year or like couple of months. If you want to see the real change, it has to take some time. And the carbon program is more flexible than value chain program. I just wanted for you to know that I'm not like telling you what to choose, just to see the differences. And it's more flexible. So, for example, when you're selling your products in the carbon program, it's not that important to whom you sell. You can sell whatever. If you have a contract with a big company, you can do it for them. If you have a contract with a local company, that's okay. Actually, in the carbon program, it's not that important. And you can also use your carbon credits to reducing also your own carbon footprint in the future, because we know that in the future, probably there will be also some push regarding our own carbon footprint. So this is something that, like, for example, the very big farms can do. So they can keep carbon credits and reduce their own footprint by using those. And when it comes to carbon credits, the price depends on the market. So in the carbon program, you produce the carbon credits, and the price is dependent on the contract and on the market itself. What is important in the carbon program is the baseline. So actually, the moment you introduce there and the practices that you've made earlier, we always, in the carbon program, we have to calculate that, check that, and then we can talk about some improvements. When it comes to value chain projects, the situation is a little bit different. These projects are very often not that long, so this is like 3-year projects, but there are actually very often there are proposals to make them longer, but still this is like mostly 3 years. There is less flexibility. So you, as farmer, you have to be aware that if you sign this value chain project with, I don't know, like Nestle or any other company, you are obliged to sell your product to them. So for those 3 years, like depending on the longitude of the contract, you have to do it, like just to sell the grain or anything else to them. So this is a kind of a limiting thing when it comes to working with those big companies. You have to sell the products to the project organizer so that the company can account for your reductions and removals. And also, like, this is the corporates that decide about the incentive and its value. So negotiations with big companies are very hard. They come to you with the offer. They offer you, and they have like a contract for you. And like this is very hard even to think if there is any kind of movement that you can do in that incentive. And so if they offer you, for example, the farm management system and nothing more, then it's mostly like that. So this is very also the thing that is for you to accept, whether you want it or not. And paying for the practice change, when it comes to carbon program, the payments are done on a basis of the practices like cover cropping, reduced tillage, regardless of the crop. Where you can do that practice, then this is counted. But for the big companies and in the value chain projects, they can pay you for the practice that was made under the certain crop that you sell to them. So for example, if you sell wheat to the company, they are going to pay you for the old practices that are made only on the fields connected to that wheat. So it's not that it takes the whole farm into account. Like then it is like that, but at the very beginning, it is just the crop. Actually, it is connected very much to the crop that you sell to that big company. And when it comes to baseline, there are different approaches. So some companies, they do care a lot about the baseline, and the other ones, actually, they tell us, okay, we just want our farmers to improve, It doesn't matter if the improvement is big or not. And we also want to work with those farmers that already progressed. And there are these good farmers that did the practice change that couple years ago, and we just want to work with them so that they could still do the practice change or still do these Region Ag practices together with us. So the baseline might be not that important in those kind of projects. And for me, it's all. I think that I just very basically show you what is all about the value chain projects and the big corporates coming to you and working with you right now, and how most probably the future of some projects in farming will look like. So thank you.
Kornelia, thank you very much. If I would be less introduced into the farming business, only thing I would hear from your presentation would be this. So the big corporations will come to me and ask me to do all the job for them and to pay for all the carbon footprint I'm making for the whole industry. So it's all about me being blamed for everything.
Not blamed, I would say. It's not that blaming, that big corporates are blaming farmers or something. They're rather they know who is from where the carbon footprint comes from.
And from them. It's from them. They're doing the production.
But if they don't want to produce, if they want to still produce food, this is farmers are the most important part of their value chain, of their chain of supply chain, everything. So this is not about blaming farmers, but rather helping them to make those changes. But yeah, when it comes to big corporates, you always know that you have to kind of know that there is something behind it. So that's why I just wanted to present it that with the big corporates, it's really good that they try to at least convince farmers to do some changes. But farmers are also here to ask for something for making those changes.
What would be the biggest mistakes we can make in this chain?
Mm-hmm. I think that the biggest mistake is that, first of all, that farmers sometimes don't read contracts when they sign, which they sign with big corporates, and they don't know what is the project all about, and how long it is. So from my perspective and from my experience, I see that, for example, farmers are not sure that they have to sell their grain to the big corporates for a couple of years, and this is the main problem, because after 2 years, they want to sell it to someone else, but they cannot. And the price is established by the corporate, of course, not by the farmers. Mm-hmm. So this is a kind of thing that positions farmers in a kind of maybe not dangerous, but not very, let's say, good place.
Mm-hmm. So how to play safe, where to turn to make sure that we don't do these mistakes?
So checking the conditions that are in the contract, first of all. So terms and conditions, the most important part, and also having in mind the kind of incentive that they actually offer you, and choosing the best way for you. So if you're sure that you want to implement some changes, and I'd advise you to do it, then always think about if you need more flexibility, then turn to the carbon program, or if you are okay with being part of the big corporate company, and then you're part of it, but you also have some obligations in terms of working with them for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Can we be sure that carbon footprint will not kill farming whatsoever?
Carbon footprint in terms of what they produce?
Yeah, somebody will come and say, you know what, too much carbon, shut down.
No, that's something that will not happen, actually. All of the changes that are actually proposed to farmers are to make farming possible in the future. Mm-hmm. This is something that actually, this is the goal of the whole adventure, actually, with the Region Ag and with the changes. And for corporate, it's also securing their product. So they want to still have those, products coming from Europe, not only from Argentina and any other countries, because if we do not care about the soil, as I said, in 10 years, big corporates, they will not have farmers from which they will buy something. So, so that's why this is the problem.
Thank you for your hope. Thank you very much,
Thank
Kornelia.
you. I'm positive. Thank you.
Thank you.